everyone, welcome back to my live writing test series where I write a brand new essay in response to this week's newest IELTS test question. Alright, let's see what we have today. Nowadays, many people read the news online instead of reading newspapers or watching TV. Discuss the positive and negative effects of this trend. You might have come across a question of this sort where they say discuss, and then you're expecting, okay, this is going to be a discussion essay, and then you see positive and negative, and then you think, oh, what's that? Is this an advantage essay? Is this an opinion essay perhaps? Because we do have words just like these. I think what's important is to kind of break this down here. I specifically had my assistant select this question since this I know can be a great bone of contention for a lot of you. Normally, when you have a discussion essay, you see something like this, discuss both views and give your own opinion, right? And you know that this is a pure discussion type, but this can literally not be anything else. Other times, they ask you, do you think this is a positive or a negative trend? And that type, of course, is an opinion essay because they're asking you to make a choice. Do you think this is positive or negative? It's basically the same thing as do you agree or disagree? And then you have other types where they ask you talk about or discuss the advantages and disadvantages of this trend. Or perhaps they may ask you something like, do you think the advantages of this trend outweigh the disadvantages? So this, you know for sure, is an advantage-disadvantage essay. But this specific question here is kind of, bucking the trend. It's obviously a little bit different. You do see positive and negative. You do see, discuss, and you're probably thinking, what kind of weird mashup is this? Well, if you'll notice, in order for something to be a discussion essay, it has to specifically tell you to discuss both views, because discussion essays are about viewpoints. And in the background, which is this part here, you should be able to see two separate viewpoints presented to you, which is not the case here, so this can't be a discussion essay. So don't be misled by just seeing the word discuss in any capacity. Please make sure that you're observing your background as well, because you do have to invest a little bit of time in the beginning before you start writing anything else down. So it can't be a discussion essay. You don't have two different views, but it doesn't say. Many people think, some people think watching the news on TV is a great idea, but some other people think that reading newspapers is a better idea. Discuss both views and give you an opinion. So that would be a discussion essay, right? Because you're being presented two different viewpoints, but you don't have any viewpoints here. You just have this one statement that, oh, this is what happens in the world nowadays. And all that you are told to do is to talk about the benefits and drawbacks of this, the positive and negative effects of this trend. So this is an advantage-disadvantage essay. It may not be framed in the traditional sense, but you should be aware that there's 5 types of essays and they can be presented in absolutely any fashion whatsoever. This cannot be an opinion essay, even though we do see that opinion essays have been presented with this kind of framing. Do you think this is a positive or negative trend? But see, this word here is extremely important. You have the word or. A lot of you may ignore these words. You might think that's a tiny word. That doesn't seem very important, but it is. It's extremely important. There's a huge difference between and or. And means you talk about both things. You must. Or means you have to make a choice, right? So let's get this out of the way. Now that we know what kind of question this is, we're going to go on and possibly I'll just write the introduction first. Although normally, you can do it either way. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, you can do it either way. There's no rule that you must start with an introduction. There's no rule that says you must, begin with writing your main ideas. You do what works for you in conjunction with, whatever your tutor tells you, if you have one. What I've seen is people who tend to self-study need to take the exam thrice to maybe even 5 times or more. in order to be successful. So I would recommend finding someone that you can trust, probably someone with a good track record, to kind of help you with this whole thing. Okay, so, well, you have to talk about the benefits and drawbacks. Now, it is important that even if you're, writing a discussion essay, even if you're writing an advantage, disadvantage essay, you have to talk about both things, yes, but you also have to make sure that you're showing which side you support or favor. What is your opinion? You have to make that clear as well. Because nearly every essay, not every single one, but nearly every essay that you write will have some element of it being something where you're displaying your viewpoints about something. These are all mostly argumentative essays, not argumentative as in fighting, but argumentative as in presenting varied opinions and also telling the reader what you prefer. Okay, so let's see. Reading the news, that's your topic, the news. Now you need to write something about the news in your background statement. You have got to develop the skill of being able to pick out your topic or theme from the background of the question. If you don't do that, you're going to fixate on words like online, news, reading papers, watching TV, positive, negative. And when you fixate on specific words, you're going to write something that looks like you're going to try and pretend to paraphrase, but I mean, it's going to look like a horrible mess. So just make sure you develop that skill. If you don't have it, you have the internet at your disposal, go on, find about it, or work with a teacher. Okay, so I have to write something about the news. I could potentially say that, media has become very important and powerful. Yeah, a free and just media is the backbone. Any fully functioning, I don't know, if I say something like this is a good sentence, there's nothing wrong with it. The only issue is when the reader reads something like a free and just media is the backbone of any fully functioning democracy. The reader gets the idea that this essay is about democracy, or this essay might be about the importance of media, which is not the case. It's about reading news online versus, using something that's tactile. So maybe I could say, again, this is a good sentence. See, if you do have an essay which is generally about the media, you can use a sentence like this, but I'm not just going to delete this. I could potentially say something else. And this is why I prefer having my main ideas down first. I kind of extrapolate and create my introduction from there. Okay, well, many people read news online instead of reading newspapers. Since the advent of the internet, late 1970s. What is that? No, I think it was late 1980s. Okay, so since the advent of the internet in the late 1980s, its popularity has grown leaps and bounds and has superseded many communication channels. Such as paper, and nobody even remembers what a telegram is. And even phones for that matter. You can make phone calls online. You have apps for that nowadays. You don't need a phone. So since the advent of the internet in the late 1980s, its popularity has grown by leaps and bounds and has superseded many other communication channels, such as newspapers, telegrams, and what else? I mean, TV is still popular, but many people cut cable, right? They don't subscribe to cable, they just subscribe to something like Netflix. So that also, I mean, it's a big threat to all of these, so you could potentially include that. Newspapers, telegrams, and even cable TV. I mean, this, of course, has been happening since a long time now. So that's my background statement, then I'm going to write an opinion statement. Do I largely think it's good? I mean, getting your news online means that you're not dependent on someone else to curate it for you, right? You can search on Google, you can search on DuckDuckGo if you don't like Google, if you think it's biased, which it does hide search results sometimes. You can decide where you want to source your news from. That might create echo chambers, but you don't have to depend on what some journalist decided to post in your newspaper today. So you get more control that way. I think that's better. Plus, if you look up a website like Twitter, you can find real news from real people who are like right there. I mean, anytime there's a riot or something, if you open up Twitter and you see what's happening, you can see people recording video, audio, texting live, right? It's real-time news. You can't beat that. I mean, you can't wait for the paper to tell you this happened. By the time information is printed in a newspaper, it's already too late because information moves at a lightning fast speed these days. So um, although other news sources, I'm not saying they're not important. They do have, an important role to play. Although other news sources do have an important role to play, the internet offers obtaining news from the internet offers a range of benefits. Oh, I'm sorry, you're supposed to talk about the positive and negative effects. Okay. Okay. I'm not talking about news, through paper and news versus, news from TV. Okay. See, this is why it's important to read your question over and over again. So, it's all the benefits and drawbacks. Okay. Although obtaining from the internet does seem to present a few risks, does initially seem to present, or we can say initially seems to present a few maybe challenges, not risks, perhaps. We can say it offers I can say, nearly unbeatable range of benefits that cannot be overlooked. There we go. That's my introduction. Then I'm going to go on with my generating main ideas, generating supporting ideas, all of those. I'm going to do them all together. So let's see. Oh, and if you're watching and you would like to drop comments or something, feel free. I'd love to hear your suggestions. Right, so what do I need? My main ideas. Okay. Main idea sentence 1 is about the negative effects. Okay, and then main idea sentence 2 about the positive effects. Okay, so what's a negative effect? Echo chambers. And you have, fake news, and you have what else? It's easy, to, when I say echo chamber, it means, let's say, again, depending on where you are on the political spectrum, you might prefer a specific news site, right? But they might have a bias. Or you might prefer a range of news sites, but they might have a bias and you might be exposed to, because again, something takes place, it can easily be, twisted to fit any narrative. So there's still risk if you're, referring to the same channels. There's definitely a risk of living in an echo chamber where everything you consume just kind of validates what you already feel. You're not being challenged by differing information. So it's possible that people's prejudices might strengthen, right? So not sure about this one. I'm just gonna maybe, again, I know echo chambers is definitely right. The spread of fake news is another one. Curated, yeah, artificial. This is fine. How does it lead to prejudice behavior? See, make sure you question yourself when you write something. If you feel like I cannot explain this in a sentence, then you should delete it. I can do it fine. That can lead to prejudice behavior. Although this does seem a little bit like, it's a bit shaky, not perfect, but I can always change it later on. I can, but I would not recommend you to. I would say make sure that you have your 3 ideas set in stone before you start, writing them out, because thinking about it last minute can be very stressful. And the benefits. live news, I mean, that's just unbeatable from the source. Less likely to be outdated news. Very accurate data. And what else? What else is benefit? News from all over the world. Well, I mean, you do, but let's say you're interested in news from Denmark, for example. Are you likely to get that kind of news in your daily newspaper? Maybe one small bit in the world news page, one page out of what, 20 pages? That's not really enough. So news from all, I think, parts of the world, for every type of source, every type of news, whether you're interested in celebrity stuff, sports, culture, whatever it is. Now we're going to create the main idea sentence. So depending solely or depending entirely or obtaining or using only source of information about the outside world. What's up? Okay. Information about the world may present some challenges. I've already said that though, so might bring forth a few issues. Okay, that looks good. And then the next one. However, it offers, let's see, unparalleled. What happened here? It offers unparalleled depth and range compared to any other news source. Depth is how much information you can get about one singular topic, and range is how much information overall you can get about all kinds of things, no matter what you want, just with a touch of your fingertips. There we go. So we'll take these, put them over here. Okay. Perhaps of the spread of malicious information, or colloquially referred to as since the over the past couple of years. Well, I don't know. I don't think I need to point it out in that way. So perhaps the most worrying concern is that of the spread of malicious information, colloquially referred to as fake news. It is possible for a group of people to spread misinformation or propaganda masquerading as news, and few people would be wise enough to detect this. Then I've taken fake news first. You can always, of course, change the order, whatever you think is appropriate. So I'm going to put this as number 1, and this naturally leads to this, and this can also be another concern. Consequently, it can lead to social discord and lack of harmony between people, and further drive a wedge between communities nations, and I think communities is fine. Consequently, it can lead to social discord and lack of harmony between people, or maybe even just drive hatred. I think social discord is the same thing as lack of harmony. It can lead to social discord between people and further drive wedge between communities due to increased lack of trust. And you start to, if you're presented with that kind of news, you might think that there's, you know, some kind of risk or danger to you. It might not be true, but you start to believe it. So it can lead to social discord. It can drive a wedge between communities because of this lack of trust and the fear of, increased lack of trust and increased hatred and a lack of trust. I think this idea needs to be well developed. It's not well developed at the moment. It's this tiny bit over here. Perhaps the most worrying concern is that it was malicious information. It's possible for a group of, it is possible, I don't think I need this, a group of motivated people can spread. Sometimes they're even paid, sometimes they're just people who like, you know, spreading misinfo. They can spread misinformation or propaganda masquerading as news, and few people are wise enough to actually detect this. A lot of people do fall for it. Consequently, it can lead to social discord between people and drive a wedge between communities. I don't think I need to say wedge between communities because it's the same thing. It's redundant. Due to increased hatred and lack of trust, which can also lead to real-life incidents of violence. Or what else? Or maybe, let's say, yeah, I think this is fine. Or other, I think this is fine. This is okay now. And the last thing, people who support or frequent a few websites or rely on a few channels for their information might suffer from, you know, from a lack of unbiased viewpoints. Since many media houses, since many websites and media houses, you know, do have their own biases, you know, whether left-wing, centrist, or right-wing. There we go. And then I need my conclusion. I think people who frequent a few websites or rely on a few channels for the information might suffer from a lack of unbiased viewpoints, which leads to, what do we call them? I mean, your beliefs, you know, just get fossilized, which leads to a strengthening and it's okay to write information like this, but only if you're confident that you're doing it the right way. Okay, and the last thing I need is to write my concluding sentence. So, people do not seek out alternate sources of info. They may have blind spots in their wisdom. Also, somebody just texted me last time I did this kind of thing. Well, that was Wednesday. And, well, it's actually a student of mine who just enrolled. He said, I'm worried. I saw that essay you wrote and it was way above my level. And then I have to, like, you know, tell him, hey, calm down. It's not a big deal. You don't have to write something like this. And I'm going to keep saying it. I possibly even have it in my description. See, you don't need to be writing something like this. Unless, you know, you're here because you're aiming for a band 9 or something. So this is just an This is a hyper ideal response. You don't even have to do, I would say, half of what I do. Yeah, sure, I use words like masquerading and stuff like that. You might think, oh well, I would never think of that word, but that's okay. Your goal is just a 7 out of 9. A 7 out of 9 is a high score. It's a very good score. It's in fact a great score. But you don't need to produce writing like this for a 7. Someday perhaps I'll show you samples of my other students' Band 7 level works, and you'll see that they're actually quite relatable, simple. These are things you can easily achieve. This is just an ideal response. Okay, so the next main idea is, okay, this is a good one. Again, I haven't looked at these ideas and arranged them. I should. Let me see, live news. I think this is probably the best thing about getting news from the internet. I used to read papers, I gave that up. So, speaking from experience. News from all parts of the world, okay. I think these two are fine. I mean, it's piping hot news, basically, right? Okay. Yeah, I think I'll keep it this way. All right. Most importantly, channels on the internet. Well, obviously, a website is online. That doesn't make any sense. News online, whether from like a website, a news website, whether from a dedicated news website or a social media account. And again, people do, like, anytime there's some kind of, one example is anytime it rains really badly, really heavily in my city, if there's like a thunderstorm kind of situation, people do volunteer to, like, like, I'm here and if you need snacks or whatever, or I'm here if you need a place to stay overnight, if you're stuck somewhere, can't make it home, if there's flooding or something, if it happens once every couple of years. So how do you find these people? On Twitter. Just even a couple months ago with the whole the illness that we're dealing with at the moment, I wouldn't, well, I'm not going to take the name. I've heard that they don't show your videos if you do that, apparently. But anyway, so I mean, how do people find the resources that they need? They go onto Twitter, they go onto Facebook, they join groups, they join these hashtags and everything, right? That's how you get like the latest updates. You can't depend on a newspaper for that. You can't depend on a magazine for that. So news online, whether it's from a dedicated news website like CNN or whatever, or a social media website, offers minute-by-minute updates. I mean, it's blazing quick. News online offers minute-by-minute live updates, often right from the source. I mean, again, an example of this can be, and many media channels do partner up with local residents. Like, go here and record, and just, it's so easy now. Everybody has the technology. Just a couple of days ago, I saw a video about it was from the Deutsche Welle channel. They had a woman on the ground in Afghanistan, and she was reporting live from there. Or was it Lebanon? I don't remember. But anyway, it was live reporting. So often right from the source, which makes it all the more reliable, since there's no way that could be fabricated. There's little to no now you're wondering, oh, I wouldn't think of the word fabricated. Don't worry about that. You're not aiming for a 9, okay? So news online, whether from a dedicated news website or social media website, offers minute-by-minute live updates. Or social media website, let me put it over here, such as Twitter or Instagram, offers minute-by-minute live updates, often right from the source, which makes it all the more trustworthy. If you're watching a live video, it's definitely not edited. I mean, yeah, maybe you have filters and stuff nowadays, but that's just for people's faces. Okay, no chance of news being fabricated, and what else? Less likely to be outdated. Additionally, as a result of live updating, as a result of this frequent flow of information, right from the source. The data and reportage, okay, well, that's actually a French word, are highly likely to be very accurate. Oops, what was that? Compared to day-old news found in newspapers. During the very early stages, people quickly rushed to, what was the website? It's called, I think, World Meters or something. A site which offered, like hourly updates on the case count, right? And the last point is about news from all parts of the world. Wait, I've already used this, haven't I? Okay, not only is the information absolutely fresh when found online, not only is the information online absolutely, fresh, but there is also the possibility of finding information about absolutely any kind of theme or topic. As it does not matter where you live, as long as you have an internet connection, you can find information about the remotest parts of the world. A feat not possible with traditional news media. Okay, this is a bit large. Oops. Let me change that. So it offers unparalleled. I really want to finish it this one in 40 minutes. It's kind of like a mental challenge. But anyway, so the last thing, therefore, if people depend on the internet, I would probably, yeah, they are likely to get the highest quality data. And finally, my conclusion. Okay, this is a bit large. I should be able to finish it all in one page. I don't like the idea that it's all separated. Let me just, yeah. Oh, is it too tiny? Looks fine. Let me know if there is an issue. Right, so in conclusion, and then it's evident that, well, although paper-based media, or although tangible sources of news, oh well, it's not about that. Although using the internet as a medium of news collection or may at first seem to, present some risk, to be somewhat risky. Upon deeper investigation, it is clear that there is no other source of media as powerful and wide-ranging and beneficial as the internet. Sometimes you may have to repeat the noun just to ensure that your reader understands. Okay, it is clear upon further investigation, it is evident that although using the internet as a medium of news collection, I think, as a source of news, may at first seem to be somewhat risky. Upon further investigation, there is no other source of media as powerful and wide-ranging, comma over here, powerful, wide-ranging, and beneficial as the internet. If people sought all their news only from papers, they would be at a severe disadvantage. They would find it difficult to keep up with the blazing fast speed at which the world basically evolves. I mean, today you read in the paper that there's, let's say, oh yeah, well, there's football matches going on, right? You read about how, let's say, this country is playing versus this country tomorrow, and then maybe in tomorrow's news you see how this one player was sick and he didn't play at all. But if you were, catching the news online, you would have figured out the second that, his illness was announced, right? So, keep up with. If people depended only on papers, they would not be able to keep up with the world at large. There we go. There it is. I know it's a little bit lopsided. I'm gonna try and fix it. So that's 38 minutes. That's really nice. Okay, I enjoy challenging myself. Okay, well, so let's decrease this. It's too big. It's too verbose. I think this whole thing is making it. Well, this is actually fine. Well, as a result of, I don't think you need both of these. As a result of the implementation source, the data is highly likely to be very accurate. This data is highly likely to be very accurate, okay, compared to day-old news found in papers. During the early stages, people quickly rush to world meters. Is it called world meters? I don't know, but you don't have to be super accurate. No one's gonna check, like, oh, does this website really exist? Is it 100% perfect? Don't worry about that. As long as you, gave it an honest effort. A site which still offers, hourly updates on the case count. Not only is the information online fresh, but there's also the possibility, but one can also find information about absolutely any theme or topic, absolutely any topic online, as it does not matter where you live, where one lives, as long as one has an internet connection. Information about the remotest parts of the world can be found. A feat not possible with traditional news media. Okay, that looks fine. I don't want to really change, but let me try again. Most importantly, online, whether from a dedicated website, whether from a news website or social media website, offers minute by minute. Well, minute by minute is live, okay, but that's fine. Right from the source, which makes it all the more trustworthy. Since there is little to no chance of news being fabricated. News fabrication or manipulation. Oh, there we go. Yep, there we go. Here we have it. Perfect. Okay, so again, I'm gonna read it just to be sure that I don't have any mistakes, as you should. Let me just zoom right in so you can also read along. Since the advent of the internet in the late 1980s, its popularity has grown by leaps and bounds and has superseded many other communication channels such as newspapers, telegrams, and even cable TV. Although obtaining news solely from the internet initially seems to present a few challenges, it does offer a nearly unbeatable range of benefits that can't be overlooked. Using the internet as one's only source of information might bring forth a few issues. Perhaps the most worrying concern is that of the spread of malicious information, colloquially referred to as fake news. A group of motivated people can spread misinformation or propaganda masquerading as news, and few are wise enough to detect this. Consequently, it can lead to social discord between people due to increased hatred and lack of trust, which can also lead to real-life violence. Furthermore, people who frequent a few websites or rely on a few channels for their information might suffer from a lack of unbiased viewpoints, since many websites and media houses do have their own biases, whether left-wing, centrist, or right-wing, and that leads to strengthening of possibly incorrect beliefs. So people do not seek alternate sources, they may have blind spots in their wisdom, but it offers unparalleled depth and range compared to any other news source, or maybe compared to all other news. That's fine. Most important, the news online, whether from a news website or social media websites such as Twitter or Instagram, offers minute-by-minute live updates right from the source, which makes it trustworthy since there's little to no chance of news manipulation as a result of the frequent flow of information. There you go. This data is this data is likely to be very accurate compared to day-old news found in papers. And then you have the example. Not only is the information online very fresh, you can also find information about any topic online. It doesn't matter where you live, as long as you have an internet connection, you can find information about the remotest parts of the world. That's not possible through traditional news media. So if you depend on the internet for news, why is I over here? Yeah, they are likely to get the highest quality data. In conclusion, it's evident that although using the internet as a source of news may at first seem to be somewhat risky, upon further investigation, it's clear that there is no other source of media as powerful, wide-ranging, and beneficial as the internet. If people sought all their news only from papers, they'd find it difficult to keep up with the blazing fast speed at which the world evolves. Whew, and that's that. Okay, well that was fun. So that's all for today. I hope you found that fun. I mean, I know writing is not fun for a lot of you, but trust me, writing does not have to be traumatic. It can really be a lot of fun. Well, that's all for today. Check back on Saturday when I'll respond to a new speaking test, or maybe you'll just come back next week to see me write another essay. That's all for today. See you later.